The Lion King was first released in 1994, and ever since then, it has become one of the more iconic animated films in the world. While it gives us a glimpse of Simba's evolution as the Lion King, the recent reboot closes in on Mufasa's life, whose unyielding values made Simba into the perfect king he grew up to be. As you know, the story of the Lion King is one of legacy, love, and leadership, woven into the sprawling savanna of the Pride Lands. And even though the 1994 film barely explored it, at the center of it all stands Mufasa, the wise and noble king whose teachings echoed through his predecessors long after his reign. But then the royal family is more than just Mufasa or Simba. From the fiercely protective Sarabi to Simba's evil uncle Scar, everyone really had their own way of contributing in the overarching narrative. Given that the new reboot is sort of a prequel to the OG Lion, I think it's about time that we deep dive onto Mufasa's family tree in this channel. So without wasting another moment, let's talk about the backstory of every member in the Lion King family. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us it means an awful lot. Thank you, and let's begin. Mufasa. It goes without saying that Mufasa is the heart of this franchise, because no matter what, he will always be the original Lion King of Pride Rock. Mufasa was the older brother of Taka, better known as Scar, and a mate of Sarabi, with whom he had a son named Simba. Growing up as the heir to the throne of Pride Rock, Mufasa was always groomed for leadership, while his younger brother Taka took on the responsibility as leader of the Lion Guard in order to protect the kingdom. But as young adults, the brothers had a moment that would change their relationship forever. After a solo patrol in the Outlands, Taka returned to Pride Rock with news of his victory over a rogue lion who had tried to challenge the kingdom. Proud of his brother's bravery, Mufasa gave him the nickname Scar, referring to the facial wound he had received in the fight. But what Mufasa thought was a playful gesture deeply stung Taka. The nickname reminded him of the difference in how they were treated, and ever since, Scar resented his brother, believing that Mufasa wasn't truly worthy of being a king. At some point, Mufasa and Sarabi were betrothed to one another as part of the Pride Lands' royal traditions. Eventually, the two were married and welcomed their son Simba into the world, who would not just inherit the throne, but the entire legacy of a divided family. After Simba was born, Mufasa dedicated himself to teaching his son about the circle of life and what it meant to be a responsible leader. Just like his father did with him, Mufasa wanted Simba to understand the importance of caring for the kingdom and its inhabitants. But while he focused on shaping Simba's future, Scar was plotting to take the throne for himself. One fateful day, Scar lured Simba into a gorge and triggered a wildebeest stampede, putting the young cub's life in grave danger. Naturally, Mufasa rushed to save his son and even managed to get Simba to safety, but the rescue came at a terrible cost. As Mufasa tried to climb out of the gorge, Scar betrayed him by throwing him into the path of the stampede. Much later, Simba found his father's lifeless body and was overcome with grief. But Scar used this moment to manipulate Simba and convince him that Mufasa's death was his fault. Naively believing the lie, the heartbroken cub then fled the Pride Lands, leaving Scar to take control of the throne. For years, Simba lived in self-imposed exile in the jungle, trying to escape his guilt in the shadow of his past. But everything changed when he encountered the spirit of Mufasa, who reminded him of who he was and urged him to return home to reclaim his rightful place as king. But when Simba returned back to the Pride Lands, he confronted Scar and finally learned the truth that Scar was the one responsible for Mufasa's death. Fueled by the revelation of living his entire life burdened by a lie, Simba stood his ground, ultimately defeating Scar and exiling him from the Pride Lands. Soon after, Scar met his end, and with the kingdom now free from his tyranny, Simba ascended Pride Rock to take his place as its rightful king. And once he did, Mufasa's spirit looked on from the stars, proud of his son for embracing his destiny. Even after Simba restored peace to the Pride Lands, Mufasa's spirit remained a guiding presence. He often offered wisdom to Simba's son, Kiara, encouraging him to be a strong leader and to help unite the outsiders and Pride Landers, continuing the legacy of harmony and balance in the circle of life. Aadi. So Aadi is remembered as the third known king of the Pride Lands and the second to be formally named. While the details of how he came to the throne are unclear, he likely succeeded Mohatu either by birthright or through marriage. During his reign, Aadi and his mate Uru had two sons, Mufasa and Taka, who would later become known as Scar. But during an unforeseen incident, tragedy struck when Uru died during a hunting trip in the gorges. Taka, who had been with her at the time, returned alone and explained what had happened. Aadi was spent with grief of losing his beloved and indirectly blamed Taka for Uru's death. In a moment of anger, he struck his son, leaving a scar on his face, which sort of drove Taka away. According to A Tale of Two Brothers, the rift between them grew and Aadi eventually banished Taka from the Pride Lands. Heartbroken by the loss of his mate and the fractured bond with his son, Aadi is said to have succumbed to sadness, leaving behind Mufasa to carry his legacy forward. Ahadi's reign, though marked by strength, ended in tragedy, leaving behind a family deeply scarred by loss and conflict. Aadi was renowned for his bravery, as he had tackled countless crises and faced numerous dangers during his reign. While not much is detailed about how he wielded his authority, it is believed that Aadi ruled responsibly, using his power to serve the needs of his subjects rather than pursuing any personal gain. His dedication to the well-being of the Pride Lands earned him respect and helped the kingdom thrive under his leadership. His decisions didn't always satisfy everyone. While most of his subjects benefited from his rule, many others, like the hyenas, were left feeling unfulfilled with it. Even so, Aadi was a king who listened to his subjects and took their concerns seriously. But he had clear boundaries. He wouldn't tolerate being talked over or accept blame for issues that weren't his fault. While he made every effort to address the complaints of the Pridelanders, he always maintained his authority and ensured that the laws of the kingdom were respected. One example of his firm leadership was when he reprimanded the hyenas for hunting for sport, which was strictly forbidden in the Pride Lands. Moreover, Ahadi's firmness extended beyond his subjects. Even within his own family, he held his ground. For instance, when he broke a promise to Taka to address a more pressing issue, he apologized but didn't dwell on Taka's reaction, even when it bred resentment. Instead, Aadi stayed focused on his responsibilities without letting his personal conflicts derail him. With that being said, Aadi's love for his children was undeniable, even though his approach to parenting was a mix of tough love and unwavering protection. Uru. Uru is the queen of the Pride Lands, and as mentioned in The Lion King 6 New Adventures, she is the second officially named queen and the mate of King Aadi, with whom she had Mufasa and Scar. She also became the paternal grandmother of Simba and the great-grandmother of Simba's children, Kopa, Kion, and Kiara. During a severe drought, Uru took it upon herself to search for a new water source because all she cared about was the well-being of the Pride Lands. While she was away, Aadi was left to care for their sons and manage the kingdom, juggling the weight of leadership with the challenges of parenting 2 young lions. Even though we don't see her, from the way others talk of her, it is pretty clear that Uru had a strong sense of responsibility towards the Pride Lands, as she truly loved her kingdom. Moreover, Rafiki later revealed that Uru succeeded in her quest of discovering a water source that saved the Pride Lands during a time of crisis. Though Uru is largely absent from the story, Aadi first mentions her while explaining to Rafiki that she was on a mission to find new food and water for the kingdom. Later, Rafiki shared a full story with Kopa, recounting how Uru found a lake at the western edge of the Pride Lands, and her discovery ensured the survival of many animals during the drought, cementing her legacy as a queen who gave up anything to fulfill the needs of her kingdom. Scar. I think everyone knows that Scar is the main antagonist of Disney's 1994 animated classic The Lion King, but what you might know is that he also serves as the posthumous presence in The Lion King 2 Simba's Pride and has a brief role in The Lion King 1.5. As Mufasa's younger brother and the second-born prince of the Pride Lands, Scar was once next in line in the throne. According to dialogue in the original film, both Scar and Mufasa come from a royal bloodline, though details of their upbringing remain unclear. Scar's resentment of Mufasa is very evident, as he is jealous of his brother's position and the admiration he receives. Scar also views himself as the more deserving lion and firmly believes he should have been king. His name comes from the scar over his left eye, as it is his most defining physical feature. While the film doesn't reveal how he got it, director Rob Minkoff once suggested that Mufasa might have been responsible for it. Despite his open disdain for Mufasa, Scar continues to live in the Pride Lands, though he keeps to the shadowy areas beneath Pride Rock, isolating himself from his brother and the lionesses. Scar's only real companion seems to be the hyenas, whom he once referred to as his friend. However, this relationship seems to be far more genuine, and Scar frequently exploits the hyenas' desperation and uses their vulnerability to manipulate them into doing his dirty work. Now, outside the original film, Scar's backstory is explored in 2 alternate versions within derivative works, offering more insight into how he became the bitter and cunning villain we see in The Lion King. Firstly, in A Tale of Two Brothers, Scar was originally named Taka, which means waste or want in Swahili. As the second-born son of Aadi and Uru, Taka grew to hate the fact that his older brother Mufasa was chosen to be the king instead of him. Eventually, after Taka met with three hyenas, Shenzi, Banzai, and Ed, they planted an idea in his head that if Mufasa could be made to look incompetent, Taka would seem like the better choice to rule. So, Taka devised a plan to embarrass his brother and trick Mufasa into visiting a waterhole where a Cape buffalo named Boma was refusing to share water during a severe drought. At the waterhole, Taka escalated the situation by roaring and declaring himself on behalf of the Lion King that Boma either had to move or fight Mufasa. The enraged buffalo then charged at Mufasa, but with the help of a mandrill named Rafiki, Mufasa managed to escape. However, Boma then turned his attention to Taka, leaving him to face the consequences of his actions. As Mufasa fled, he quickly realized Taka was in danger and returned to find his brother being attacked by Boma's herd. During the chaos, a buffalo struck Taka with its horns, leaving him badly injured and unconscious. Without hesitation, Mufasa jumped in to save his younger brother, standing between him and the charging buffaloes. Just as the herd prepared to attack again, their father, King Aadi, arrived with a large group of animals. Ultimately, the sheer size of the gathering overwhelmed the buffaloes, forcing them to retreat. But the attack left Taka with a scar over his eye, and from that day on, he chose to call himself Scar, a name that would come to define his darker path. We see the second version in the Lion Guard, where Scar was born as Askari, named after an ancestor who had once led the Lion Guard. As the second-born cub of the reigning king, Askari was given the honor of leading the Lion Guard, a team of lions tasked with protecting the Pride Lands and maintaining the Circle of Life. Along with this role came a special gift, the Roar of the Elders, which is a powerful ability that summoned the voices of the great lions of the past to amplify his roar. At first, Askari embraced his responsibilities, but the roar's power soon went to his head, making him arrogant and conceited. During a solo patrol, Askari encountered a mysterious lion who planted a dangerous idea that he should be the king instead of Mufasa. An intrigued Askari then followed the lion only to be ambushed by a cobra that bit him, leaving him with a scar over his left eye. As a result, the venom began to cloud his mind, amplifying his darkest thoughts. Eventually, the mysterious lion offered to cure the venom in exchange for Askari's loyalty. But in a fit of rage, Askari killed both the lion and the cobra with a roar of the elders. When he reported the incident to Mufasa, he expected praise for eliminating the threat. Instead, Mufasa dismissed him with a mocking nickname, Scar, which stuck and overshadowed his true identity. From that point on, Scar's jealousy and hatred for Mufasa deepened, fueled in part by the lingering venom corrupting his thoughts. Convinced he deserved the throne, Scar then tried to enlist the Lion Guard to help overthrow Mufasa, and when they refused, he used the Roar of the Elders against them, killing his entire team. This act of evil caused the great lions of the past to strip Scar of the roar, leaving him powerless and consumed by bitterness. Over time, Scar became a shadow of his former self, driven by resentment and his belief that he was meant to rule.
Nala.
Sarabi. As the former queen of the Pride Lands, Sarabi was Mufasa's mate and the mother of Simba. As the queen of the Pride Rock, she led the lionesses and organized their hunting groups. In all her appearances, Sarabi is portrayed as wise, courageous, and strong, yet she also has a gentle and humorous side. During Mufasa's reign, she was a constant source of strength for her family, especially when it came to Simba. She took great pride in Simba's presentation as the future king, and later encouraged him to learn from Mufasa about the responsibilities of leadership. While Mufasa was gentle but firm in his guidance, Sarabi brought a softer approach, often showing deep affection and patience, particularly with her son. Sarabi is very gentle and soft-spoken, and despite Simba's many childish complaints, she keeps a smile on her face and even enjoys embarrassing him if it serves his best interests. Though she has a lighthearted and puny side, Sarabi knows when to set boundaries for Simba to keep him from making mistakes or getting hurt, and like Mufasa, Sarabi is very deeply protective of her son, always ensuring he stays safe and learns the right lessons. Even when she has to deal with Scar, Sarabi remains calm and composed, undeterred by his harsh and unjust leadership. But that does not mean Sarabi is afraid to speak her mind. When Scar refuses to take responsibility for the Pride's suffering, Sarabi hits Scar where it hurts, reminding him of the difference between himself and Mufasa. Later, when Scar admits to killing Mufasa, she was also one of the first to leap into battle, standing up for the rightful ruler of the Pride Lands. She's a steadfast believer in justice, and when Simba takes his place as king, Sarabi wholeheartedly supports him, proudly accepting him as the true leader of the tribe.
Is the same.
Simba. As the very famous Lion King, Simba is the son of Mufasa and Sarabi and was always destined to be the king of the Pride Lands. However, after his father was tragically killed by his evil uncle Scar, Simba was wrongfully blamed for his death and forced into exile. There he finds a new life in the jungle oasis, where he's taken in by the carefree duo Timon and Pumbaa. But during Simba's absence, the Pride Lands falls into ruin under Scar's rule. As the kingdom faces danger, Mufasa's spirit pushes Simba to confront his painful past and accept his responsibility as the true heir. When he matures, Simba returns to take his rightful place in the circle of life as the king. Later, he marries his childhood friend Nala, and together they have 2 cubs, Kiara and Kion, continuing the royal legacy. Now, Simba started out as an adventurous and cocky cub, eager to follow in his father's footsteps as king. His youthful bravado led him into trouble very often, especially with his uncle Scar, whose schemes nearly cost Simba everything. After Mufasa's death, Simba became consumed by guilt and self-doubt, believing himself unworthy to rule, and it wasn't until he met Rafiki and connected with his father's spirit that Simba learned to face his past and embrace his future as a king. Later, as an adult, Simba matured into a humble and thoughtful ruler with a loving family, including his wife Nala and their cubs Kiara and Kion. While still playful at heart, Simba became more cautious and overprotective, especially of Kiara, who reminded him of his own adventurous youth. Though he sometimes struggled with his temper and grudges, Simba learned valuable lessons from his family and friends, who helped him realize the importance of forgiveness. In the long run, Simba proved to be a wise and just king, upholding traditions while being open to change.
It's okay. Whoa, it's okay.
Nala. For those who have still not watched The Lion King, Nala is Simba's lifelong best friend and confidant. Growing up together in the Pride Lands, their bond was very strong, and they shared many adventures. When Simba was exiled after Scar took over the kingdom, Nala didn't stay silent and stood up against Scar's tyrannical rule in order to help Simba return to reclaim the throne. As time passed, Nala and Simba's friendship blossomed into a deep love. She eventually became his mate, and together they had 2 cubs named Kiara and Kion. Nala's loyalty, courage, and wisdom made her not only Simba's partner, but also a strong and supportive mom to their children. As a cub, Nala was feisty and independent, never afraid to stand up for herself. She was quick to call out Simba when he tried to take credit for her ideas, but despite her sass, she was always there for Simba, even when he made mistakes. She always loved him and grieved deeply when she believed Simba was lost. Eventually, as an adult, Nala matured into a thoughtful and responsible lioness. Scar's reign in the Pride Lands made her realize the importance of accountability, and she often became Simba's voice of reason, challenging him when needed. Nala also helped bring Simba back to the Pride Rock and helped him in ending Scar's tyranny. Later, as queen, Nala became more reserved and wise, offering gentle guidance to her family. She trusted her daughter and son to make their own choices and supported Simba's decisions while standing firmly by his side. Kiara. As the daughter of Simba and Nala, Kiara is a curious and free-spirited cub with a fierce sense of adventure. She's always seeking new experiences, and the drive for exploration often leads her to defy her father's wishes as she ventures into the Outlands to find answers to her questions, even if it puts her in danger. Her adventurous streak paired with her desire for independence makes her determined and strong-willed, often sneaking off to follow her own path. Kiara also gets frustrated by the expectations placed on her as the daughter of the king and queen, preferring to be seen for who she is rather than just as Simba and Nala's child. But despite her rebellious nature, she matures over time and begins to accept her role as a future queen. She takes responsibility seriously, though sometimes this newfound sense of duty causes her to clash with her younger brother, Kion. Even so, the bond between them remains strong and they care deeply for each other despite the occasional tension. Kion. As the youngest son of Simba and Nala, Kion was chosen to lead the Lion Guard, a group dedicated to protect the Pride Lands and maintain the circle of life. With his strong sense of duty and bravery, Kion became the fiercest member of the team, earning respect for his leadership and his unique power, the roar of the elders. Unlike the rest of his family, Kion is very much the rule follower. Even as a cub, he took his responsibility seriously, often thinking things through and recognizing potential dangers before diving in. His strong sense of duty helps him stay grounded and cautious, especially compared to his best friend, Bunga, who tends to act first and think later. But as he grew older, Kion eventually retired from his role as the leader of the Lion Guard, passing the torch to Vitani, though he still retained his powerful roar. Later, Kion's journey led him to the Tree of Life, where he became the king and formed a new chapter in his life. He also fell in love with Queen Rani, and together they ruled the Tree of Life, continuing to protect their kingdom and upholding the values of courage and leadership that Keon had always remembered. So that was it for Mufasa's family tree. Now, have you guys watched Mufasa yet? Well, let us know your thoughts in the comments below. As always, if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks everyone.